I grew up with a single mom who worked 2, sometimes 3 jobs at a time just to keep food on the table. My sister and I were what were known as latchkey kids. Nowadays, we might be known as feral or free range. But I remember wondering something very specific as a child growing up. Why do we get cheese in these huge blocks? Only just a few years ago, I learned that was government cheese. And I also learned a lot of you young people don't know what that is, so you might want to look that up. So there were not a lot of conversations happening in our apartment about where we'd be volunteering this weekend or what our next big donation was going to be to. There were 3 persistent conversations. It was, did you eat? Did you clean your room? And when are you going to get a job? The only conversation we had about money was pretty simple. We ain't got none. But when you grow up in those types of circumstances, you vow one thing, that when you grow up, it's going to be different. And you're going to make sure that you earn more for your family, and you're going to make sure that you give more. And I did grow up. I went off to college, and after college, I go and I get my first big boy job. And it was right out of the movie Office Space. TPS reports, cubicles, water cooler talk, office romance, the American dream. But we did one thing cool there that I really enjoyed. We did philanthropy as a team building event. And we do it every month, and one month we went and served at the Ronald McDonald House in Raleigh. And now, I didn't think this was going to be a life-changing event or anything, but I was very excited to go. 2 reasons. First, I enjoyed the company of my teammates. We were all in our early 20s. We got along wonderfully. Second, there was this young lady who was going to be there that I had a little crush on. Well, more like I was head over heels in love with her. And I'm proud to say that that young lady's here with me today, 20 years later, been married for almost 18 of those years. That's right, give it up for that. So my motivations were, let's call them layered. But we go in and we cook dinner, and keep in mind, this is 10 people in their early 20s making dinner for parents with children. The irony was not lost on any of us. We were primarily surviving on ramen noodles and Hot Pockets, and here we are cooking for these families. But we get done, and they tell us something I didn't expect. They say, go, sit, talk with them. I start to panic a little bit because I'm not the best conversationalist to begin with, and I certainly don't know what to say to somebody who's in this circumstance. But I find my way over to this woman. She appears to be in her early 30s, clearly exhausted. She's going through it, right? We start talking. She's telling me about the long days, the uncertainty, the travel, the fear, just everything she's going through. It's breaking my heart. But then she stops, and she says something I didn't expect. She says, thank you. The fact that you would take time out of your day to come here and cook us dinner just reminds me that we're not alone. And the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and my eyes started to water a little bit, and it took me back. Yeah, I realized something deeply profound in that moment. Giving is one of the most selfish things we can do, because she simply needed a meal that she didn't have time to cook. I could cook it. Find a need, fill a need. Giving is one of the most selfish things you can do, and that's totally okay, because that good feeling that comes from serving somebody else is not something to be ashamed of. It's something to be pursued. It's something to be chased. It's something that is good. It's a win-win in its purest form. She got the meal, and I got the great feeling, and we both went on with our day. Now, a couple years later, I moved to Columbia, South Carolina, and I've got this working theory. Y'all help me out with this. You can prove me wrong. Men only move for one of 3 reasons. I call it the 3 W's: work, women, or wander. Find another one. Now, I wandered down to Raleigh, North Carolina. I met that lovely woman, and thank goodness when I moved here to Columbia, we had work. And I was working for a Fortune 500 company at the time, and we were a small satellite office, so I was trying to institute some of this philanthropy, team building type stuff we were doing at the old company. So I find a local 5K that we can volunteer at and sponsor, and it was going to kind of fill both needs, right? We could get our logo on the back of the t-shirt, we could all go out there and volunteer together. It would be a win-win. So I call up to corporate, and I really want this to work, so I'm pitching the deal to him. And now, mind you, I'm asking for $500, the lowest sponsorship tier. This is not name a hospital wing money. This is, we're going to put your logo on the back of a t-shirt 47 people are going to wear twice and throw away money. And, but I'm laying it on thick because I want it to work. So I'm selling the vision, the PR, man. We're going to be out there all volunteering together in the community, the team building, the employee retention, employee engagement. It's going to be wonderful. And he says, hears me out and says, Matt, That's great, but we just can't. I mean, you can imagine, right? We have all these offices all over the country. If we sponsored a 5K at every event or at every location, how quickly that adds up, shareholder value, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, yeah, adds up to what, like 50 grand? This is a company that did $11 billion last year. I'm pretty sure you guys spend more than $500 a week on donuts. But, you know, I say, yes, sir, like a good little corporate soldier, and I move on and hang up the phone. And when I hung up that phone, I had this overwhelming sense of relief, because that no wasn't a rejection, it was permission. Because like a lot of people in their 30s, I was wondering, what is my impact going to be? What will my ripple effect be that I start in my little corner of the universe while I'm here on this earth? And that $500 no gave me the permission to go out and start my own business. And when you start your own business, you can do things your own way, right? So we baked giving into the DNA from day one. We made the hard decision early on that we would give away 3% of all of our revenue to nonprofits. So you'll notice I said something there. I said revenue, not profit, because I can play with profit numbers. As a matter of fact, our company didn't make profit for 3 years. I didn't take a paycheck for 3 years, but we donated every single month. Now, that lovely woman and my accountant had a ton of questions about why I was making all these donations and not paying myself, but that's a story for another day. But so this decision, though, put a new decision in front of me. Do we talk about it? Because we're a mission-based business, and when you're a mission-based company, you want to talk about it. But I'm also a Christian, and I know that Matthew 6 says, when giving to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing so that your giving may be in secret. Pretty clear, right? Don't talk about it. Keep it between you and God. And funnily enough, as I'm preparing for this talk, I'm sharing that insight with one of the mentors who's Muslim, and she starts to laugh as I'm telling her, and I'm like, what is she laughing at? And she said, oh, there's something like that in every religious text. And that was somehow comforting, that there's this universal guilt. It's not just a Christian guilt. But before I make a final decision, I go and I visit one of my mentors, Mr. Eddie. Mr. Eddie's forgotten more about the Bible than I will ever know, and so I figured he'd be the perfect person to help put me straight on this. And I told him my whole story, I asked him what he thought, and he said, Matt, you're forgetting about another verse. 2 Corinthians 9:7 says, God loves a cheerful giver. Cheerful, not silent. So your intentions are pure. You're sharing because you want to create a positive ripple effect in people who grew up in similar circumstances as you. You want to create the impact that helps others that haven't seen other people give around them like you didn't when you grew up. So check your motive. And he helped me create this simple framework. Give silently when your motive is praise. Give publicly when your motive is permission. It's that simple. Check your motive at the door. Because when we give publicly, we'll soon realize there are people waiting right now for permission. There are people looking around the room and here today wondering, will this little bit I have to give even matter? Does these few dollars, does these few hours, do they really matter? And I can unequivocally say yes. But they won't know until we give them permission. Fast forward a couple years, it's Thanksgiving. We bring 25 turkeys down to the local homeless shelter in the back of my pickup truck. I snap a couple pictures, and I'm debating, do I post this on social media? And on one hand, I'm thinking, this is kind of a nothing burger. There are companies that drop 10 grand in a heartbeat around this time of year and don't even think twice about it. I got 25 turkeys in the back of my truck. We're talking about a few $100. On the other hand, I'm like, I don't really want to humble brag. I'm not trying to look like that guy. Anyways, I hit send. I make the post. A couple weeks later, I run into my friend Derek. Derek says to me, Matt, I am so glad I saw your post on LinkedIn. I've been thinking for years about going down to our food pantry at my church and bringing food and volunteering my time, and I just have never done it, and you finally motivated me to do it. And that was it. That was the first ripple for me. That was the first dot. So now the cool thing about this is Harvard has data to back it up. When we witness generosity, we're more likely to emulate it. When we're the recipients of generosity, we're more likely to pay it forward. Who's ever been in one of those lines at a coffee shop when people start buying the order for the person behind them? Right? People will pay it forward. And one generous act ripples up to 9 times. Now, my mom didn't have $500 to sponsor 5Ks. She didn't have 25 turkeys to bring anywhere. Every day, she was giving her all just to make sure that we had food on the table, and she was rationing government cheese like it was toilet paper during COVID. But Steve Jobs says in his famous commencement speech back in 2005 at Stanford that you cannot connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backward. And looking back, I see now that she was modeling what giving looks like for me. And that rippled. That rippled to me, to my team, to my family, to the thousands of people that now have clean water from the 4 wells that our company has planted around the world, to the over 100 schools that we've donated to in South Carolina that now have books and primary things for their classroom because of the donations that we made, because of Derek and his team that were able to go and volunteer their time, to our clients, and to you today. That ripple effect took over 30 years to reach its way to you, but it did. So I encourage you, find a need and fill a need, and then tell somebody. Not to brag, but to give them permission and start your own ripple effect. Thank you.